Yes, so welcome. Like I say, Keira, no Keira this week, which is very sad. Our thoughts are with Keira, I'm sure. She is going to be missed, but we're going to have some fun anyway in her absence, because we are going to do a review on the J.J. Abrams movie Star Trek Into Darkness. We're going to do a deep dive this week, suggested by Paul. We're going to do a deep dive onto the villains of Star Trek. I'll be doing an unboxing of one of my latest Star Trek Online Eaglemoss collections, the RRW Elal. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but we shall see. And of course, we will be, I say we, God, do you know what? I'm into the habit of saying we now. This week, I will be bringing you the latest in Star Trek news. But first of all, something Keira and I were discussing last week was we were trying to figure out what were the reasons for the change from a gold shirt for Command in the original series to the red shirt in The Next Generation. And Walter W. has sent us a message through YouTube suggesting that the reason for the change to red shirts in Command was to help stop the jokes about people dying. Maybe not. I mean, that's what Walt said. Do you know what? That sounds like a reasonable and rational reason to me, because obviously it is a massive part of the culture. Oh, red shirts. And in fact, as soon as you say red shirts, it's usually the first thing that comes to people's minds, even if they're not Trekkies. And do you know what? It's totally unfair, because people have sat down with calculators and pencils and paper and worked all this out. In the original series, it was only about 10% of the deaths were caused by but only 10% of the crew deaths were red shirts that died. So there you go. It is a complete and utter unfair misnomer, but never mind. So first thing we're going to do then is dive into our review. And this time it is Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, I ought to say right from the outset, this episode, as every single episode, is going to contain lots and lots of spoilers. If you're not familiar, if you're not up to date with the movies, with the various series, Discovery, Picard, all the rest of it, you're going to get spoilers, basically. So, just so you're aware. Now, Into Darkness was the second of the J.J. Abrams reboot movies. It was a sequel to the 2009 aptly named Star Trek. And it was released on the 9th of May 2013. The plot... So, being a movie, there's a lot more to go through than there would be with a normal episode, so take a deep breath and bear with me as we go through this. In 2259, Captain James T. Kirk is removed from command of the Starship Enterprise for violating the Prime Directive. Admiral Christopher Pike is reinstated as commanding officer, with Kirk demoted to his first officer. Shortly afterwards, a Starfleet officer, Thomas Harewood, Mickey the Idiot for the Doctor Who fans out there, is sent by Commander John Harrison to bomb a Section 31 installation in London. During an emergency meeting on the situation, Harrison uses the ship to ambush and kill Pike and other senior officers before transporting to Kronos, homeworld of the Klingons. Admiral Alexander Marcus reinstates Kirk and Spock to the Enterprise with orders to kill Harrison using a new long-range stealth torpedo. Chief Engineer Scotty objects to allowing untested torpedoes on board without knowing their specifications, and when he is overruled, he resigns. En route to Kronos, Enterprise's warp capabilities become disabled, and Kirk leads a team with Spock and Uhura to the planet, where they are ambushed by Klingon patrols. Harrison appears and kills the Klingons. Harrison then surrenders when he learns the precise number of torpedoes on board the Enterprise. Meanwhile, Dr. Leonard McCoy and Marcus's daughter, Dr. Carol Marcus, open a torpedo at Harrison's urging, revealing the torpedoes contain cryogenically frozen humans. Harrison is taken to Enterprise's brig, where he reveals his true identity, spoiler alert, as Khan Noonien Singh, a genetically engineered superhuman awoken by Admiral Marcus from centuries of sleep and forced to develop advanced weapons. Khan reveals that Marcus sabotaged Enterprise's warp drive, intending for the Klingons to destroy the ship after it fired on Kronos, sparking war with the Klingon Empire. Khan also gives Kirk a set of coordinates, which Kirk asks Scotty to investigate. Scotty discovers the coordinates lead to a covert Starfleet facility. The Enterprise is intercepted by a much larger Starfleet warship, the USS Vengeance, commanded by Admiral Marcus. Marcus demands that Kirk deliver Khan, but the Enterprise flees to Earth to expose him. After the Vengeance disables the Enterprise near the moon, the Vengeance loses power after being sabotaged by Scotty, who had infiltrated the ship. With transporters down, Kirk and Khan space jump to the Vengeance. After fighting their way to the bridge, Khan overpowers Kirk, Scotty and Carol and kills Admiral Marcus, taking control of the Vengeance. Khan demands that Spock return his frozen crew in exchange for the Enterprise officers. Spock complies, but he and McCoy have surreptitiously removed Khan's frozen crew from the torpedoes. When Khan starts shooting at the Enterprise, Spock detonates the warhead, crippling the ship, and with both starships caught in Earth gravity, they plummet towards the surface. Kirk enters the Enterprise's radioactive reactor chamber to realign the warp core, sacrificing himself to save the ship. Khan crashes the Vengeance into downtown San Francisco in an attempt to destroy Starfleet headquarters, whilst McCoy discovers that Khan's blood has regenerative properties that may save Kirk. Spock pursues Khan through the city and the two engage in hand-to-hand combat. Uhura beams down and stuns Khan. Spock prepares to kill Khan, but Uhura stops him, explaining he is their only chance to save Kirk. Khan's blood revives Kirk magically, and Khan is sealed in his cryogenic pod and stored with his compatriots. Fast forward 1 year later, when Kirk is speaking at an Enterprise rededication ceremony. The Enterprise crew embark on a 5-year exploratory mission, which basically brings us up to the original series. Well, gosh, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with the film. I've got to say, I don't believe it is one of the finest Star Trek films out there. When it was released, they kept the whole it's Khan is the villain thing as quiet as they possibly could, but it was worked out fairly readily. Not by me. I'll hold my hands up. I read message boards and discovered it from other people, but it was worked out very, very quickly. So it wasn't much of a surprise to some of us. It was a big surprise to some people, I suppose. But yeah, so to some of us it wasn't a huge surprise. And I'm not a Cumberbatch fan. I've said this previously. I mean, he's a great actor at doing what he does, which is pretty much the same character over and over and over again. Now, I mean, it's always difficult in an actor's life. You get known for a particular role, so you then get cast in similar roles, and then you become typecast. But we all have a casting type, which is different to being typecast. You know, for example, I'm a comedy actor. I play dads, perverts, and Father Christmas. That's my range. But every now and then you do get the opportunity to sort of break out of that mould and play something really different. And certainly I think I don't feel Benedict Cumberbatch does that enough. And certainly he's a big enough name, he can pick and choose his jobs. But that's a whole other thing. Certainly he wasn't Khan for me at all. He was nothing like the character whatsoever. And indeed, so the backstory sort of that never gets revealed in the film is that he was had his appearance altered, basically to help hide his identity. That's why he looks so different from the Wrath of Khan and Space Seed. But part of the real reason why they did that was they didn't want Sikhs to be cast as villains. They didn't want to be kind of offensive, but the Sikh community was actually really up in arms and said no, because he's totally misunderstood, and he's he's a complex character, and you've missed an opportunity to cast a Sikh person. So I do think they missed a trick. I mean, personally, I think they just wanted to cast Benedict Cumberbatch because certainly at that time in 2013 he was in everything. So I just think they wanted to put him in and came up with an excuse. That's my personal theory, but we will see. The whole plot is riddled with problems right from the word go. He beams to a different planet using Scottish transwarp equations. I mean, that's just, magical transporters beaming to other planets. No, that's nonsense. Do you know what, Ed? They couldn't. And this was one of the issues for me. They couldn't work out whether they were doing a remake or a different film, and it ended up being a bit of both, which it did both badly. If it had committed one way or the other and said, right, we're gonna remake Wrath of Khan, then remake Wrath of Khan. I would have been up in arms about that because I don't think it needs remaking. But if you're going to do that. Yeah, there are so many scenes that are just lifted straight from Wrath of Khan, and it feels really out of place when they do it. Not good. And there are some lovely moments in it, of course. The Vengeance, beautiful ship. I really do like the Vengeance, and I like the way it's portrayed, especially as a Section 31 ship. I'm very, very keen on that. I think there's some sort of fun moments. I think Carol Marcus getting down to her underwear. I know the actor who plays Carol Marcus. She's defended that quite heavily. I'm sorry, but it was just gratuitous and pointless and totally unnecessary for the story. I mean, her defence of it is she worked out really hard to get into that film. Well, I mean, great, that's something to be very proud of, and I don't want to take that away from her. She worked hard for it. Great, fantastic, but it didn't make it had no point in the actual story other than just for gratuity. So I'm not a fan of that bit. The whole Khan's blood brings people back to life now. Well, I suppose lifting the scenes from the Wrath of Khan, having it the twist of it's Kirk who dies. Well, he doesn't have a Catra, of course, a Vulcan soul, so that can't be transferred. So they had to come up with a different way, but. Yeah, it was just. That's a flawed concept right from the word go. That's the trouble with that. Vulcan mysticism does work better. You're absolutely right, Ed. And the fact that they're aliens, you can come up with wild, weird stuff. But yeah, that's not a thing. But okay, so to move on to some trivia about the film. It is a fun action film. And indeed, when I actually posted on my Facebook that I was watching it ready for tonight, and I had a message from my friend Craig, who Craig and I went to school together, and he's probably a bigger Trekkie than I am, but don't tell him I said that. He messaged me, so good luck with that, and we were sort of back and forth a little bit, and said, it is a fun film, but you've got to leave your brain in a bucket by the door when you watch it, which is a shame. It could have done so much better, I think. But there we go. So, some trivia. First one, a little bit of a sad one, this. It was Leonard Nimoy's final film role before he passed away in 2015. So not only was it the last time he was on film, it was obviously his last time playing Spock as well. And I think it's rather appropriate that the last time he performed was as Spock. You revisited it this week along with Star Trek 3. Oh, Christopher Lloyd is a fantastic Commander. I can't even remember his name now. Not Karg. No, I can't remember his name. I'm sure you'll remind me, Ed. So with Leonard Nimoy, it was a condition in his contract. The only reason he would actually Krug. Thank you. Yes, Commander Krug. It was a condition in Leonard Nimoy's contract that coffee ice cream, which was a favourite of Leonard Nimoy's, was always available on set when he was there. I think that's a lovely one. And I mean, some people might see that as a bit, big stars asking for, it's like the coloured M&M's thing. Now, there's a lot of misunderstanding. I'm gonna go completely digress now and talk about the M&M's being split into different colours. Thing is it Madonna? I believe it's some big star anyway who has this in their contracts. Now, the reason they put that in the contract in the first place was not because this star was so insistent that they had a big jug full of one colour of M&Ms and a jug full of another. It was, or a bowl even, it was actually to check whether or not the production company had read the contract. So it was it's a sneaky test. There you go. So if you ever see that in a contract, don't automatically think, oh, it's the star being being difficult. It might not be. There could be other reasons. More trivia then. Benedict Cumberbatch's character was not revealed to Benedict Cumberbatch until a week after he was cast. It's basically they rang him and said, "New Star Trek, we want you to be the main villain." Oh, fantastic! Can I see a script? Nope. Or can you at least tell me who I'm playing? Nope. I mean, so there I was slagging Benedict. All credit to him for taking the role on, and I think that speaks really highly for the franchise itself, that it is so strong that he would actually do that. But there we are. But yeah, it wasn't until a week after he was cast that a studio representative flew to London from Los Angeles with the script actually handcuffed to his wrist. They were really keeping it top secret. In the film, Scotty refers to Dr. McCoy as Bones. This is the only instance in the entire history of Star Trek where someone other than Kirk refers to him by this nickname. With one exception, in the Tholian Web, when McCoy gets angry, Spock tells him that Kirk would have said, "Forget it, Bones." So that's still kind of Kirk saying it, just through Spock, so I think that still counts. But yeah, only Kirk called Bones. So there we go, other than Scotty in this film. There's a mention in the film of the starship USS Bradbury. That was in fact a tribute to the science fiction writer Ray Bradbury, who had passed away just before on June the 5th, 2012. This, Into Darkness, for all its issues and for all its problems, it is the highest grossing film of the entire Star Trek movie franchise. It is also the 11th highest grossing film of 2013. What the hell was in 2013? I should have looked this up before I came on. But if it was the highest grossing Star Trek film, but only the 11th highest grossing film of 2013, there must have been some big movies in 2013. Was it a big year for Marvel? I'm wondering. Not entirely sure. Now, the torpedo that Dr. McCoy and Dr. Carol Marcus attempt to disassemble bears its own registry number of CVN 65. I suspect you'll like this one, Ed. That is the registry of the decommissioned USS Enterprise aircraft carrier. So it's a really nice little nod there. I love little Easter eggs like that. Yes, the US character. And that's just a really nice one in there. And I mean, there is so much trivia that I can talk about with this movie. I mean, I could literally sit here for 2 hours just reeling off trivia after trivia after trivia, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you one more bit for the horror fans out there. Many people will know Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson in the original Nightmare on Elm Street back in 1984. Well, Heather Langenkamp is in Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, not only was she a makeup artist on the film, which a lot of people didn't realise, but she also went on set as an unrecognisable, because the makeup, like, she went on as an alien and it looked like a fish. It was really strong, like complete prosthetic, so she was utterly unrecognisable, but played a character, even given a name, Moto. There you go. Looks like a fish, but that was Heather Langenkamp from A Nightmare on Elm Street. There we are. So what do you think of Into Darkness? Am I being a bit too harsh on it? Do you know, is it more redeemable than I'm giving it credit for, or does it deserve all the panning it gets? Do jump in the chat and let us know. Moving on then, so mentioned, obviously Khan is one of the major villains of the entire Star Trek franchise. And I, in preparation for this, I had a look on the internet, see if I could pull up any sort of top 10 lists, and I found one on cbr.com. So in reverse order, starting with 10, you've got Lore, obviously Data's twin evil brother. I think he is a very worthy addition, and it's nice. You always get these antagonists, these villains that are kind of the opposite of what you do. I mean, Marvel do this absolutely brilliantly. Where your nemesis is you, but an evil version of you, basically, and that's exactly what they did with Law, and I think it worked really, really well. I always liked Law as a character. Number 9, deserving of a way higher score in my book, because he is my personal favourite villain in the entire Star Trek franchise, and that is saying something, is Gul Dukat from the Star Trek Deep Space Nine series, of course. And to me, Mark Alamo's representation of Dukat and the writing of the character plays very heavily into this whole thing that that there's no such thing as a villain. When you're performing, when you're acting, and when you're writing, there's no such thing as a villain. Everyone is the hero of their own story. And he plays into that really well. I mean, Loki is the other, from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is the other, prime example of that. But long before then, you had Mark Alemo doing Gold the Cat and doing a brilliant job of that. He teams up with them when he needs to team. And he's got these really strong motivations. Well, thank you. Yes, I think he's absolutely brilliant. He is his own hero, and it's the universe working against it. It's not his fault. Which I mean, that's a line from Han Solo, of course, from the Star Wars movies. Whenever the Enterprise, whenever the Millennium Falcon fails, it's not my fault. But literally, like Gold the Cat, he is trying in his own head. He is doing the best he can for everyone around him. Hey, Paul! So glad to see you here. We're talking about your suggestion, the Star Trek villains. We've just started on the list of CBR.com's top 10 villains. We've got Law at number 10 and Guldakat at number 9. Who, he should definitely be way, way higher. Granted, it doesn't have to be number 1 because he might be my number 1, but not everybody is, but surely higher than 9. Certainly higher than number 8, I think. Who, as a villain, is not really a villain. It is villains. The Dominion. Yeah, that's an odd choice. Because they're not even they're a collection, of course. Yeah, well, you've got taste, Paul. That's why. Golden Cat for you as well. Yeah, so the Dominion, I mean, yeah, I get it. The Dominion are scary, and certainly when we're first introduced to them, they're technologically advanced. Oh, well, now we'll come on to that one. That is an excellent suggestion there, Ed. But I'll whiz through CBR.com's top 10 list, and then we'll go into where they've got it wrong, because there's a few. Number 7, and this baffled the crap out of me. Tribbles. Tribbles are not a villain. They're just a fluffy animal that devastates or maybe they are a villain. Because they do devastate everything they come into contact with. Yeah, it's hard to see them as a villain, though. Are they sentient? Don't know. They're a playable race in Star Trek Adventures, so maybe they are sentient. Maybe they are. Maybe they are evil. They're just fluffy and cuddly with it. They are a plague. That's very, very true. Hence the great Tribble hunt. At number 6, we have Mirror Spock. Now, if you're going to have any Mirror character, have Giorgio, surely. Or Keira. I mean, Keira was a brilliant Mirror villain. I suppose they couldn't have everything from Deep Space Nine, even though Deep Space Nine was probably the best source of villains, I think, in the entire franchise. But yeah, Giorgio's a great one. Lorca. Yeah, Lorca would have been brilliant in here. So yeah, Mirror Spock. I mean, he wasn't really a villain in the end because Kirk managed to sort of talk him round and he turned it around. Yeah, do you know what? If they're going to have the Dominion at number 8, have the Terran Empire, not just Mirror Spock. Yeah. Well, are they? Because in Deep Space Nine, of course, when the Terrans are subdued, they're not necessarily evil. I mean, yeah. Oh, the Intendant was brilliant. Mm. You can just tell when an actor's having fun with the role, can't you? It is absolutely brilliant. At number 5, we have Romulan again. Romulans, not here's a Romulan or anything like that, but Romulans. That's just lazy writing. Number 4, likewise, the Klingons. Yeah, and not always villains. They're just a different race with a different way of looking at the universe. At number 3, I'm going to sort of agree with this one. You have the Borg. Now, as a collective intelligence, as a hive mind, yeah, I would recognise the Borg as a single villain. And yeah, well deserving of a top 3 place, I think, the Borg, absolutely. Although they got nerfed. They got nerfed very quickly, I think, for me. The idea of them being this indestructible, invincible. But, of course, in terms of story writing, there's very few places you can go. Well, yes, and it plays in... not. Yeah, vampires is about loss of control. It's about being controlled. It's that claustrophobia of being covered in things. Yeah, there's so much that it plays into, and of course, a total rip off of the Cybermen from Doctor Who and zombies. Yeah, well, they are. Yeah, robotic zombies. I'm glad you asked the question, though, Paul, because at number 2, CBR.com did place Q as the second greatest villain in Star Trek. Now, when we said we were going to... As Keira and I came off air last time, we started saying, who do we think, are we going to talk about any particular villains? Are we going to, sort of had a brief chat. And I suggested Q. And Keira's this one, but he's not a villain. I'm like, isn't he? She said, well, no, because he's not, he's just mischievous. He's not really... But, of course, he's the one who introduced us to the Borg, and he's putting humanity on trial, and in his own words, the trial never ends. So, yeah, I see him very much as a villain. I mean, so I suppose the line between antagonist and villain is quite a fine one. And villain, just the word itself, brings the whole vaudeville top hat and twirly mustache, into mind. So yeah, I prefer the word antagonist, because villains tend towards the one-dimensional, whereas antagonists can be as complex as you like. So yeah, I do prefer antagonist. But yeah, if we're gonna call them villains, that's fine. Yeah, Q's definitely a villain in my book, a clever villain, definitely, Paul. And CBR.com's number 1 villain of all time is Khan, of course. Do you know what? I don't know if I would have him as number 1. I would certainly have him in the top 3. Maybe 2, maybe 3. It's really, the top 3. I'm inclined to agree with the top 3: Borg, Q, and Khan. But yeah, but there were some definite, notably missing ones for me. You mentioned Arne Darwin. Arne Darwin's a brilliant character, and so good to see him back in the Deep Space Nine episode Trials and Tribulations. And same actor even, which is absolutely brilliant. And speaking of actors and Klingons, so the original series episode, one of my favourites, The Squire of Gothos, with Trelane, General Trelane, retired. Now it's the same actor that played Koloth, the Klingon in the original series. And of course, later on, again in Deep Space Nine, we get Koloth back. Same actor. There you go. In fact, that's a subject for a future episode. We're going to be talking about actors that have had recurring roles on Star Trek, but not next week. Got something else coming for next week. So who else? I know Keira was particularly keen to mention Seska from Voyager. She's one of her personal favourites, and I know she does an amazing cosplay with makeup of Seska. I know it was her intention actually to do that today, which it's a shame. But yeah, so hopefully you'll get to see that at some point in the future. And actually, mentioning Keira, we talked last week about Mission Chicago, the Star Trek convention, and we sort of throw it out there ourselves. Shall we go? And Keira's, yeah, let's go. We've actually booked our accommodation, so we are definitely going to Chicago in April next year for Mission Chicago. So you're helping a friend with a Romulan-themed Star Trek adventure game in a week or so. Oh, see if you can be a villainous NPC or PC or NPC helper. Tell she are. Okay. If you need any help with that, or thoughts or anything at all, do give me a shout, Ed. That sounds really interesting. And of course, you can catch Ed. Ed will be in it, but everyone else can catch our Star Trek Adventures game this coming Wednesday at 9:30 BST. We can follow the next adventure of the USS Livingston, and we'll see what villains we can segue. See what I'm doing there anyway. Miss Keira, she helped hold it together. But yeah, so villain. So we've got Seska. In Enterprise, I think Silik deserves a really good mention. I don't think the writing on Enterprise was as strong as Deep Space Nine, but I think Silik was definitely sort of cut from the same sort of cloth as Guldakat, in that, he was the hero of his own story, is trying to do the best for his people. If there was the only thing that weakened Silik a little bit for me was the "I'm just following orders from the future" thing, which kind of it weakened the character for me. But no, I liked Silik, especially redeemed himself in the end, which was nice. I mean, that's a whole other thing: is can a villain be redeemed? So the good thing about monsters in Star Trek is that they're not always straightforward. Like that rock monster protecting her eggs. Yes, the Horta is the one you're referring to there. Just because it looks weird doesn't mean to say it's actually a monster. Quite right too. And Star Trek taught us so many things like that. Definitely. It was ahead of the game. It was ahead of its curve. Groundbreaking. Yeah, that's the right phrase. Absolutely, Paul. Gomtu. Well, Gomtu was Gomtu ever perceived as a villain? I'm wondering on that. But you've got who else have you got from Voyager again? You've got Species 8472, or the Undine, as they were later became known. Again, you've got that whole thing. The Romulans did so. That would be the Romulans, though, that are the villains, surely, rather than Gomtu or Tin Man, as he was known. I'm saying it. Shouldn't generalise. But yeah, no, I would perceive the Romulans very much to be the villains on that. Who's your favourite villains, though, out there? This is what I want to hear. From the movies, we've even had God as a villain in Star Trek 5. You can't get much more sort of epic than that. And certainly the Enterprise has faced off against. And so coming back to the whole Borg thing, one of the great things about Q that I like as a villain is they didn't nerf him. They, he's always been as powerful, unlike the Borg. Absolutely. Like I say, Paul, that's because you've got taste. You're in good company here. But I know Kira's vote would be probably for Seska, I would have thought. So there we go. That's villains. Now, I'm going to move on. Speaking of villains, I have an unboxing this week for Tomalok. Yes. Now, Tomalok, I would say, falls really heavily on the side of antagonist because, again, I suppose he was he's definitely an antagonist. I mean, Andreas Cassius, is just brilliant. Grace, Grace wins. Grace wins. The Borg Queen, the pinnacle of probably the worst enemy that the Federation has ever faced. Grace wins. Well done, Grace. Brilliant. The Borg Queen. I mean, we mentioned the Borg. We didn't mention the Queen, did we? And if the Borg are up there in the top 3, then the Borg Queen surely has to. So who do we think? Right, so we like these hypothetical, who'd win in a fight between Kirk and Picard, all that sort of nonsense. But who would win if the Borg took on the Q? There's a thought. Grace is definitely one. So Q versus Borg. Q would win. Well, do you remember there's a Voyager episode? I forget the name of it now. But it's where Q's son comes on board, and he's he's being brattish and being a typical teenager, and does something with the Borg, and Q, John DeLance's Q, gets really angry with him and says, "Never provoke the Borg," and he's really quite intense about it, which suggests to me that actually there's something a little bit maybe not. I mean, what is it possible for the Borg to assimilate a Q? There's a thought. Maybe Q is Borg from the future. All sorts of things we can speculate on there. I mean, I'd tend towards Q because snap of the fingers, done, dealt with. You'd think. Now, there am I saying that Q's not been nerfed. They have implied limits to Q's abilities, so who knows? It's probably not one we'll ever see. Although if we're ever going to see it, it's probably going to be in the new Picard series 2, because we know that Q is back. Yay! They won't play his games. No, he can put them on trial as much as he likes. They won't give a shit, will they? So there we go. Oh, sorry, Grace. They won't give a sugar. Not at all. We're so excited. Now, on to the unboxing. So we've mentioned the Romulans an awful lot, and how appropriate that, in fact, for today's unboxing, we have... Oh, it's a bit shiny. Let me turn that off. There we go. The RRW Elal, and you can see there, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, that's good to know. Thank you, Ed. I do apologise. I did things slip out occasionally. So this is part of the Star Trek Online Eaglemoss collection. This is number 13 in the collection, the RRW Elal. If you're wondering what RRW stands for, it is the Romulan Republic warship. Now, the Elal class is a light warbird battlecruiser. It was in service from the 2410s onwards. Specifically in game, it comes into play in 2411. And it is, I'm pretty sure, it's a playable ship by the character if you pick the Romulan faction to play. So let's have a look-see. I'm carving the box up, and I don't like to do that. I like to keep these things as pristine as possible. We've got let's see, some future ones. Oh, we've got a Damar class. I mean, do they have to name every ship after characters? You've got to wonder. But yes, you've got the AKS Kittimer. Now that is a Klingon Federation hybrid ship. That's quite an interesting one. You've got the Tholian Recluse class. The USS Shran, speaking about characters, that's actually the one I'll be unboxing next week because I received this one and the Shran together. So yeah, and it's number 14. So there we go. And what's that one? The Edison. The Edison there. So let's have a look. Usual thing. Magazine. Far too small. But, you know, hey ho. It'll have the usual things in. Nice little picture of how to mount it on the stand. Bit of history about it with some gorgeous art. I mean, the artwork in these is absolutely amazing. And actually lots of history about it. Didn't realise there was that much to know about this ship. The sort of general stats and dimensions. The designs. The design stages that it's gone through. And yeah, some more nice artwork. And talking about New Romulus, which I'll skip over because of spoilers. A new map of the Romulan Empire there. There we go. And all the in-game stats as well. So the actual Baby Dead, it's a successor to the Deredex. So you're not wrong. The intention with this was to take the Deredex but have something more manoeuvrable and lightweight. So absolutely spot on there, Ed. It is a Baby Dex. And there we go. So you can see it's got the flatter profile compared to the Deredex, but it's still got that instantly recognisable Romulan styling. It has the feel of being smaller than a Deredex. So if the initial hull was about the same size on a Deredex, it'd be about half that size. So yeah, so I'm willing to say that this ship's probably, it's got the feel of about half the size of a Deredex. Still pretty mean looking, pretty slick. This is a nice ship. It is die cast. The main hull bridge area down through the middle is die cast, with the wings and nacelles top and bottom being the plastic, and plastic at the back. Some lovely detailing on it. There we go. Very nice. Nice Aztecing. Nice shading as well on it. Yeah, it is really nice. Yeah, as Picard said of the scimitar, she's a predator. There we go. Which means all you have to do is cover yourself in mud and you'll be fine. So yeah, so that's a nice one. Hey says, great to see you. Hi. Yeah, it is really lovely, Paul. I like that one. I'm not I ought to play Star Trek Online more. Trouble is, I just don't find the time. I keep trying to get into these things, but yeah, I just run out of time so quickly to actually give them any credit. So I'm not that familiar with the ships myself. That is a particularly nice one. So there we go. Now we're into the latest Trek news. So I mentioned earlier about Mission Chicago, the Star Trek convention next year, which I can confirm Keira and I are going to. We've got our accommodation booked. It's very exciting. We couldn't be more excited about it. Oh, sorry, got to take a quick slurp. So, in Trek news this week, a little bit light on news, but there's still some stuff going off. Gates McFadden is going to be launching a new podcast called investigates. Gates with a capital G, Gates, because her surname's Gates. I need what do they call it? A sting. I need a news, something like that. I do need something. I'll work on that, Paul. Probably not this week because I've got a really busy week ahead of me. But yeah, and in fact, next time you see me, I will have no hair left and beard because I have to. I'm taking the hair off. Actually, it's pretty much straight after the stream for a shoot tomorrow I'm on, and I'll be taking most of the beard. I'm actually just going to have a bit of a neck beard under the chin because of the character I'm playing. So I've got to remove the rest of it, and of course I don't want to be stuck like that. So as soon as I'm done filming, that'll be coming off. So you'll see me all hairless and naked next time, but it'll soon grow back. So investigates, because that's her name. This new podcast is Gates McFadden. I said it was a surname. Her surname is McFadden, of course. But her first name is Gates. So this new podcast, chatting with old friends, and we can expect smooth as an android's bottom. We can expect lots and lots of Star Trek people on this podcast. So already confirmed, we've got Jonathan Frakes, LeVar Burton, Will Wheaton, Brent Spiner, Marina Sirtis, Michael Dawn, John Delancey, Robert Picardo, Michael Westmore, Nana Visitor, Denise Crosby, and others. Now, presumably it's not being advertised as a Star Trek podcast, so presumably it will be outside of Star Trek as well, but that's one to look for. That'll be launching on the Nacelcast network from the 12th of May. And if Nacelcast ring a bell, they're the people behind such documentaries as The Toys That Made Us, The Movies That Made Us, things like that. So they're the people who will be producing this podcast. It launches, like I say, on the Nacelcast network on the 12th of May. That's in America. I'm assuming it's going to be globally available because it's a podcast, but I've not got that confirmed. Speaking of differences, though, between UK and US when it comes to releases, the Discovery Season 3 Blu-ray has been announced as available to pre-order in the US. They've not given a specific release date yet, but they've just said, here you go, you can pre-order it, and it'll be $30 thank you very much. It's available to pre-order through Amazon in America, but it's not available to pre-order in the UK just yet. So we need to keep our eyes peeled for that, because literally, Discovery is one of the ones where we would get it in the UK the day after that it was released in America. So I would hope that we're not going to be too far behind them in terms of being able to pre-order it here. I know I'll be putting my name down pretty swiftly on that to add to the collection. Now, I know a lot of people who watch this are musically inclined. Some brilliant musicians amongst you all. So this one might be of interest. Jerry Goldsmith's score for the motion picture is being released as a book with all the music in it. It's going to be available direct from Omni Music Publishing for, brace yourselves for this, a whopping $85, which is a lot of money for a music book, in my view. It does sound absolutely... Now, I can't read music, so to me it'd be like buying a book written in a foreign language. It would literally be buying a book written in a foreign language, because that's how I see music. But it does sound really nice. It's got some beautiful cover artwork. It's a 473-page bound softcover book. It includes some really interesting stuff. It includes alternate cues that were put forward and suggested, and 4 additional selections of music that were not used as well. And of course, we all think about the theme for the Next Generation. Well, actually, it is the motion picture theme that was used on the Next Generation. We call it the Next Generation theme. It's not. It's the motion picture theme. So we all ought to be a bit more. So that is an opportunity to actually get the music direct for you musicians. That's Omni Music Publishing, if you've got $85 to spare. And the World of Code, as in the UK, we have started bringing ourselves out of lockdown. Things are starting to open up a little bit more. I am the voice of doom and gloom and pessimism, as I keep saying. Be careful, we're not out of this yet. Don't go mad. And yeah, people get irritated with me, because I understand, people are desperate to get back to some sense of normality. I really do understand that. I fear that we'll do too much too soon, and it'll put us back exactly where we were. I have this, and it is a fear. I'm probably a little bit sort of paranoid phobic about it, but I don't apologise for that. We are getting there slowly. I just worry about sudden jumps. That's the only thing. But Strange New Worlds, the series being filmed, of course, following Captain Pike on board the Enterprise. An actor who is in a guest role on it tested positive for COVID. Now, fortunately, and I know this myself on film sets, the good film sets, there's a lot of bad ones out there. The good film sets are testing people before they come on board. They're testing people as they arrive on set, and isolating people until they've gone through tests and all the rest of it. So fortunately, this person, I don't know who it was, I just know they were in a guest role, but they were caught, or rather it was picked up before they actually made it to set. So fortunately, they didn't need to shut down production. They just presumably moved things around and changed shoot days and what have you. But it just goes to show we're not out of it yet. And I know that I've seen some of the set photos from where they're shooting Discovery and Strange New Worlds, and they are taking some really strict measures, and rightly so. Tom Cruise is strict on set, is he? I can believe that. And yes, so he should be. I mentioned I'm filming tomorrow. I'm in a piece, and I'm also the filmmaker. So it's actually my set, and I've already upset one of the actors by saying, right, as soon as we're all cut, right, mask back on. Wear your mask until we say, right, mask off, and cameras are rolling. We've got to wear them all. I don't know. That means wearing it all down. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I've already had dissension from that. Unfortunately, 2 meters distance on this particular occasion is not going to be possible. So we're going for 1 meter's distance whilst on set. Only people who need to be on set will be on set. So we're not going to have some people stood around. But yeah, even things like we're going to be filming in the director's home, and she said, I'll put food out, I'll make tea, and I'm like, no, everybody brings their we can provide water. Nope, everybody brings their own water. I'm really quite draconian about it. Yeah, you'd think so, Ed. It's slightly more complex than that in this particular instance. But the thing is, we've gone completely off topic from Star Trek here. But since the first lockdown, I have effectively been isolated. I had to move in October, but apart from that, I have been isolating myself. I haven't even seen my own partner since the end of November, beginning of December. It was first few days in December I saw her last, because she lives in a different zone to me. And we've said, like, well, okay, we just won't see each other until, like, we're in a bubble together, so if we got really desperate, we would see each other. We're not mad about it. And she's isolating as well, you see. But we've said, like, pragmatically, let's just wait till we've had both lots of vaccinations, and we're out the other side of it, because we can wait, because we're grown-ups. I don't wish to be dismissive of other people. I know everybody's situation's individual, but that's how it is for us. So I don't want to hit a point whereby I've put all that, all that was for nothing because, some person has not liked some rules. But there we go. We shall see. Gone completely and utterly off topic there. But there we are. This is another Star Trek Sunday. And yeah, hopefully. Once people have had their second shot. You're not wrong, Ed. And that scares the hell out of me because there is a scientific thing with viruses. Now, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, this is just me having read the reports from the actual scientists studying these things and me understanding them in my own layman way, just to be clear. But from what I understand, a virus is far more likely to mutate and mutate radically if it only has a few places to go, but not many. So if you've only got a small amount of people who are not vaccinated, but everybody is mingling en masse and transmitting it from one person to another, then yeah, it's going to mutate massively. You didn't get a sticker. Better to have the vaccine. No vaccine is ever 100% protection, and it's to be honest. I'm no fan of the government, but they have been absolutely clear right from the start. It's not about providing 100% protection. It's about reducing the strain on the NHS. So we know that as things are going to open up, right? This is why I'm the voice of doom and gloom, because I say things like this and I say it very bluntly. So I apologise if this upsets anyone, but as we open up, people are going to die. It is a given. It's not a we hope they won't. We know they will. But it's about minimising the amount of people who are going to die, not reducing it completely. And I get that. We've got to open up at some point, and we're not going to be able to do it zero risk, which is really, really hard. But for the sake of waiting just that little bit longer to get the second vaccine, I think we need to be. Many years ago, I worked. I was a senior manager in the automotive industry. I was head of training, and I worked very, very closely with the health and safety department. And I remember talking to them, and we were talking about implementing training to reduce accidents, and we were talking about the cost of it. And of course you get sort of these pyramids where you'll have, like, these figures are kind of made up for every 100 minor accidents you'll have 10 major accidents. For every 10 major accidents you'll have one fatality. That kind of sort of pyramid. So you say, well, okay, if we can cut down 100 minor accidents to 50, then that reduces the chance of a fatality by 50%, and what have you. And we were talking about costings of it, and they said very clearly, they said, well, human life has a cost, and it's £5 million. That shocked the hell out of me. It's like, you can't put oh no, I suppose you have to put a price on you, and you do. Ultimately, when it comes down to cost, human life has a financial value. It's sad it shouldn't be that way, but that's the nature of the world that we live in. Gosh, yes. Well, we've really gone off topic now, haven't we? No viruses on a Trek villain list. They did show up last week was specifically about infections and diseases in Star Trek. Do you know what? I'm going to throw one out there, though, for you, Ed. The macrovirus from Voyager. Macrocosm is the episode. There we go. Virus of the week. And this week's guest will be Staphylococcus aureus. There we go. No, we'll do a stinger for that as well. Death. No. Sorry. I shouldn't joke. I have quite a dark sense of humour sometimes, so I apologise. I apologise for that. But yeah. On that note, let's draw the line there, and look forward to next week when I can't say whether Keira will be back or not. I hope Keira will be back. Keira will definitely be back at some point, but hopefully she'll have her stuff sorted for next week. But if not. For Keira, if Keira's watching this, there's no pressure. You deal with your stuff as you need to deal with it. I can always look after. Well, there was a Neelix's episode where he was making cheese, and it went into the recycling or the air system and infected the neural gel packs. There you go. Gosh, there's nothing I don't know. Well, no, there's loads I don't know. Absolutely loads. But yeah. But next week we won't be talking about viruses, I hope. We are going to be talking about the latest news again that will have occurred over this coming week. As mentioned previously, I will be doing an unboxing of the Star Trek Online USS Shran. We will be. Thank you very much, Paul. I do try. Our deep dive next week will be on cloaking technology. Ooh, how does it work? Why does it work? Why doesn't the Federation have it? All that good stuff. And to answer that question, what I'm proposing the review will be is the Next Generation episode, The Pegasus. Which is not only cloaking technology, but metaphasic cloaking technology, which is a little bit different, but there we go. But there's a big focus in that episode. If you can think of any better episodes that demonstrate cloaking technology, ideally from a series we haven't reviewed yet, that would be fantastic. But in the meantime, keep drinking your Romulan ale. Oh dear. And until then, I say this with all sincerity, I wish you all peace and long life, and that you live long and prosper. Until next week, take care. Bye.